But a week after a 40-point swing against them, Port produce it on the right side of the ledger and win their third match of the campaign by 19 points over the Dogs.
Alrighty, hello and welcome to the CREEDCAST. I'm your host Dave, as always, recording here on Tuesday evening, the 7th of October. A nice little evening to be here as well to record. A very, very good weekend for us Port Adelaide fans as your Port Adelaide AFLW side got the chocolates on a very, very nice little evening. Saturday night footy down at Alberton Oval this past Saturday gone, the 4th of October. A nice win, 8-6, 54 to 5-5, 35. A lot to get into with this one. It's a game of two halves in many ways, but I mean, our side did start. There were some good signs early, but it was also some of the, I guess, classic 2025 foibles that were affecting us and afflicting us, and the Dogs got on top there for a little bit, but ultimately we did get the job done. And a very, very some promising signs. Maybe not so much for this year, but just for going forward with this side and some of the performances we saw. Jamie is once again, he's still on podcast paternity leave. You will hear from him a little bit later. He sent through a little voice note with his votes and as well as some of his thoughts on the game that I haven't listened to. I listened to the first 10 seconds just to make sure it sounded fine, and then I'm just going to play it on the podcast later on, and we'll get to hear it when we get to the votes portion of the show. We'll get to hear from him for a few minutes there and get his votes in and any thoughts he had on the game. I know he certainly was what we were texting. I was down at the ground on Saturday evening watching a shot down there after work. I was able to get the full game in, and we're certainly texting back and forth a little bit. So I know he was watching and very, very, we were both a little bit frustrated in the first half, but the energy certainly went up in the positive direction quite significantly in the second half as the girls really turned it on in the second half and kind of changed the trajectory of the match, which is probably the first promising point to kind of start on as we get into this review. Before we get into any stats or anything, just talk about the game as a whole. I was really, really impressed with how we changed the trajectory of the match, because let's just look at the match as it's kind of the storyline of the match as it was. The game starts with us playing okay footy. I think the 6 of the first 7 inside 50s were on our end. We were shading possession or shading forward half time. Disposals still end up we have 4/5 of their disposal number. Like, it's just a story of Port Adelaide AFLW in 2025. We're not going to win disposal counts, but as far as actually where the ball was hanging out, that's the technical term. Where the ball was hanging out, time in forward half, we're getting the inside 50 domination early and getting the inside 50s, but the problem was they just weren't dangerous. They were a little bit. There was a few moments where some of the classic issues that are afflicting what is just it's a young side thing, and it's a Sex Pistols album. I'm flogging a dead horse every week mentioning this, but it's just one of those things that I expect to come with more experience and growth and maturity as players once they start getting to, the average age starts getting to 24, 25 rather than 21, 22, whatever it is. And we start becoming one of the mid-range age sides in the competition rather than one of the younger sides in the competition. But it's just a maturity in positioning, in understanding game situation and all those things. And there was just a couple of moments where we had, took a mark just outside 50 and we looked to move the ball on quickly. Maybe there was an option downfield, but either a poor kick, a poor decision, or just not understanding that you needed to take maybe another second, another tick off the clock and then lay your kick on, understand how your skill set can present itself in that situation and be used as a positive. And it's just like kicks just went to nothing. They went to intercepts, they went to space and dribbled out, or they often just went to they were almost more of a kick to an opposition player than to one of our own, despite being that we were moving the ball forward. There was a bit of an open forward line. There's an opportunity there, but we just didn't have either the skills in the moment, the decision making in the moment, or a mixture of both, the maturity in the moment to understand what to do. And you just see the other teams that are playing really good footy at the moment, like where the Kangaroos are the benchmark for the last 2 years. They just, when they're presented with those kind of opportunities, that's a goal against. It's just how ruthless they are. So that's just where we need to get to, is understanding like players understand how to get into position, how to structure, like the structure's just still quite basic and immature in a sense, and that's going to come with it some aspects of just decision making that doesn't go. And sometimes the decision making, maybe the decision's right, but the structure isn't set up enough or well enough that players are in position to take advantage of decisions made. So it makes the decision look poor, and sometimes it is just poor decision making. It's a little bit of both. There's just players are just not in the right spots at times, and that was just the kind of the tail of the tape in the first half. At times we played some okay footy. Not good. I'm not going to say it was good footy, but we were getting there forward, a little bit forward 50 entries. But ultimately, the Bulldogs kind of came into the game. They got down forward and they took advantage of their opportunities, whereas we didn't. And then they kicked one. They later in the first quarter they kicked 1 goal 3 to our 1 point, and they go into quarter time with an 8-point lead. And in AFLW, like, it's getting more and more to the point that leads can be overcome very easily by decent sides, but you still look at it and go, there's an aspect of when you give up 1 goal 3 to 1 point, and it's not finding the opportunities. And we've had the year that we've had, you get a little bit, I was a little bit tentatively frustrated at quarter time. Just a frustration of, is this going to be the same story again? And with previous weeks, we've fallen away in the second half, or the last quarter in particular. And you sit there and go, well, if we can't start the game well, or we can't take opportunity. And it was also frustrating knowing that we'd had some forward 50 play, and we just hadn't taken advantage of those opportunities. And the Bulldogs had capitalised, and just felt like, oh no, here we go again a little bit. And then we get some goals in the second quarter. We get the goal early, but then it was a bit of a battle in the second quarter. But then we get a goal back, and it's like, okay, we're just down by 3 points, and if we can keep building on this, but then the Bulldogs go down and immediately score again almost pretty soon after we score our first goal. It gets back out to that kind of 9-10 point buffer. Then they score again, and you're thinking, oh, well, here we are. It's 15, 16 points towards the end of the second quarter. It was, it's just the frustration was building. There was these moments. I think there was a moment when this might have been the third quarter actually, so I'll get to that. But there was just moments where we just really weren't on. The structure was a bit off, and players were making some poor decisions, and it just felt very reactionary football. And the girls were kind of there was a little bit of frustration out there. Was a bit of a chippy game at times with the byplay with the opponents as well. There was some real frustration there, but we do get one back towards the end of the second quarter, and Ash Woodland, after some nice play, she takes a mark and deep in the in the goal square after Caitlin Pope, and shout out to Popey doing some nice little things, and just the way she wheeled around onto her left, I think it was, and was able to get that kick, like a real good trajectory on that kick, and a good penetration to kind of have it carry just right into the goal square. And Woodland just read it the whole way, while the defenders couldn't quite get that read on the ball the same way. We get that goal back, and it's back within a goal or so. But then the Bulldogs come out again at the start of the second half, get a goal, and you just keep thinking, like, this is going to be one of those games where we're having to work so hard to peg them back within a goal, and then they can get down, and they're just finding a way to keep scoring that goal and keep it at arm's length. And that was really quite frustrating. But then just the way we turned on the pressure, just really dialed up the pressure and took the game on a little bit more. And there was the tackling improved, and just, I don't think there was a lot of things that didn't change too much from the first half. It was probably just that we did dial up the pressure just a little bit. The pressure rating was quite good by the end of the game. I think it was pressure rating of 220 that we had. 220, yeah. And so the pressure rating, that's a quite good pressure rating throughout a game. I think, AFL averages are like high 190s, I think, maybe. So, if you're getting up to that kind of pressure rating, you're doing very well. So I think that dialed up a lot in the second half as well. I don't think we had to dial it up too much from the first half. It's just that little extra, it's that extra 1 or 2% sometimes is what you need to win football games. And we did that in that second half, dialed up the pressure. And when you dial up pressure and we're still not a great disposal side and all those things, but if you dial up pressure, you dispose of the ball okay, you mitigate those differences that we talk about in the stats stuff. Like our disposal efficiency wasn't better than the Bulldogs on the night, but being that we have 50 less disposals, at least as long as we're close to theirs, then we're going to be doing okay. So if you just dial up the pressure that little bit and take the game on and keep taking the game on the way the only way we know how, which is sometimes it is still a little bit dump kicky and all that stuff. But if we're dialing up the pressure, not allowing them to have it easy, then that's going to allow us those opportunities. And there was a few moments like, Gemma Houghton just gathers the ball kind of in the centre square, kind of just forward of centre. Just gathers the ball on the run, takes it on, runs forward, puts it into a goal-kicking opportunity, like puts it over the top for Indy Tahau to run onto. I think it was when Tahau almost lost her shorts when she was evading her defender and then kicking into obviously at point-blank range when she ran in there for her third goal, I believe it was. Moments like that, it's stuff that we try a lot. It's just that when you've dialed up the pressure that little bit, the game can start going your way, and that's why it's been so frustrating watching these fourth quarters predominantly. Like that St Kilda game was just like reactionary football, not enough pressure, allowed them to play the game at their terms. What we did was kind of reverse that trend and had the game played at our terms, particularly in that second half of the third quarter. Because I think, the second, towards the back end of the third quarter, we were still 8 points down or 12 points down. Like we were still down halfway through the third quarter, and we dial it up from that point and run the game and run the Bulldogs down quite quickly in the end, to the point that halfway through the fourth quarter, we're sitting there with an 8-point lead and the game's kind of on our terms. So we've flipped the script in, one quarter from halfway through the third to the halfway through the fourth. And then we closed it out, which is what's also really, really impressive. That's kind of what as I wanted to go through kind of the storyline of the game, is like go by quarter and kind of as the game built to the point it did. It was just moments that we made things count. It's Gemma taking the game on in that moment in the third quarter, or whenever Indy kicks their third goal. It might have been the fourth by that point, but Indy kicks her third. When Gemma took it on and it's going towards the southern goals there, when she, again, as I said, almost lost her shorts. But it was just Gemma taking the game on, one hand grabbing it on the bounce through the run, breaking the lines, recognizing, and it was twice that Gemma did this in this game too. The first goal that Indy kicks, where it's like she boots it off the ground and basically gets it out of people's hands on the ground in that first quarter. That was a Gemma taking the game on from kind of half forward of centre kind of area, turning and burning, putting a kick into the advantage of, and Tahau still had to do some work, a little bit of one-on-one magic. Ball spills out and she soccers that one through. Same for this one in the second half, where she, just at the opposite end, Gemma takes it half forward, turns and burns, breaks the lines, recognises Tahau's forward, and she's got Tahau's got this time up forward now. Gemma and Tahau obviously played, together for a few years now and probably know each other's game pretty well. And you could see that Gemma there was this part of her that I think she was kind of like, if I could just kick it towards goal, I'm not absolutely going to try and leather it, but I'll kick it towards goal. It's either going to be Indy's going to be battling and it'll roll through, or like it's going to be to Indy's advantage, because Indy's so good in the one-on-one battle down there against any defender. She's either going to, if the kick comes into her in a marking position, she's going to be every chance of marking her. She's such a good contested marker, strong bodyer and contested mark. That's why she's being used in the ruck a little bit as well, is because of her body. She can at least make the opposition ruckman ruck work, even if it's not, even if giving away some height. But in a one-on-one forward craft, she's just really, really good. And in both of those scores, she just shake and bakes her defender and gets rid of her and kicks a goal and ends up with 4 on the day. in a variety of different ways. Obviously, she takes a contested mark at one point in the second half down there from a Kirsty Lamb kick in, a little bit of a wobbler, but she just reads the ball so well, and she can body off a defender and get a chance at the mark, and kind of takes one falling to ground, bobbles it a little bit and takes the mark, and then for her fourth goal where she's just steams out a full forward and takes the kick, takes it on the chest with the mark, and then obviously I think it was Elaine Grigg kind of comes in to take the mark, but obviously steps well over it from where the Indy's direct defender was going to take it, and then gives away the 50. And I got to clip it and put it up on the socials tomorrow. But there's a really, really good. If you watch the telecast back, I didn't obviously notice it on the day myself because I was watching at the ground, but I noticed watching the telecast, a replay afterwards, that there must have been a little bit of chirping from a Western Bulldogs player. There's kind of like to Indy's left as she's going for goal. And Indy kind of turns around and like gives her like a poked out tongue kind of thing as she's on her run up. And then obviously she kicks it, and then Gemma's right there and turns around and puts the two-handed shove straight into this Bulldogs player. So a little bit of chippiness out there, and which we love to see. And yeah, all of that stuff was great. And Indy had a great game. We'll talk about her stats a little bit more later on because I haven't heard Jamie's votes yet, but I'm pretty confident she's probably in both of ours. Not to tease forward too much, but we do that a lot anyway. So, just great stuff from her. I did put up a little, really, really selling my soul for the cheap clicks, but doing a little Taylor Swift inspired edit of obviously, if you'd be living under a rock, even if you're not a Taylor Swift fan at all, to not know that she's released an album. So I kind of did a little edit with Indy on the cover of the Swift's album, like what's the album called? The Life of a Showgirl. So I did an Indy edit. So go to the Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, wherever you enjoy consuming our content, and you can check that out if you haven't already, of just like Indy on the cover, Life of a Goals Girl, I called it, and just had a few of the stats there. For how her season's going. I should actually pull it up now and kind of read out kind of just a couple of the really fun little bits of like how her year is going. She's got 15 goals in 2025. So she's sitting equal third in the AFLW for goals scored, goals kicked, 2 behind Chloe Molloy at Sydney. So she's only 2 goals off the lead and the leading goal kickers this year. 71.4% accuracy. I think she's only kicked 3 points for the year. So she's what's really impressive, and she's kicking goals in a variety of different ways. She's finding herself close enough to goal a lot, which is very, very good. And her ability to take, whether it be to take marks or just shake and bake a defender, as we saw in this game, really, really good stuff. So she's finding herself close to the goal source, but she's that set shot from an angle in the second half. There was a really, really good set shot, and she's been quite trustworthy with those. She's got good penetration on her kicks. She's got a good kick on her. So if she's taken a mark, anywhere in that kind of 45 arc out of goal, you put in a fair bit of trust in her to finish the job, and she's been doing that very, very well this year. She only had 5 career goals in the AFLW prior to this year, so she's up to 20 now in her career, and 15 of those have come in the last 6-7 weeks. She, it was only a couple of weeks into the season that she kind of got dragged up forward, so doing very well there as well. She's equal 8th for marks by forwards this year in the AFLW, and equal 9th for marks inside 50 by forwards. So she's top 10 in both metrics for, if you're just looking at forwards, obviously. If you looked at marks total in the competition, she's well down. She's a lot further down because we're talking about marks by forwards. There's players around the field that do take a lot more marks. But as far as her role, she's top 10 in the league for marks by forwards. As well as obviously top 3 for goals kicked as well. So just hitting some incredible numbers for a girl that is coming off, 700 odd days off, 2 years in the wilderness with a knee that, if you read the stories, that knee was truly, truly fucked. I think she described it as just her knee turned to mush in that moment. Like it was ACL, MCL, PCL, everything. She had to, her recovery was so much longer than a standard just ACL reconstruction. Like my wife, my lovely wife, she walked out of surgery the day after she had her ACL reconstruction. It was still obviously a long rehab, and she hasn't gone back to playing sports since. because it is still like there was a long time of pain and management of the recovery, but she was able to walk gently out of surgery the day after. She stayed in overnight at Sportsmed and did all that stuff. But whereas Indy, I think it was braced for 2 months. She couldn't weight bear on it for 2 months. It was a real big reconstruction. Again, there's an article that she's on the AFLW website or somewhere. I read it just about the ins and outs of it, and it's very. So I just wanted to bring that up as a point because what she's doing this year is so remarkable, considering what she'd done to herself. You could be forgiven. I certainly know when I had an ankle reconstruction 10 years ago. It was 13 years ago. Jesus, I'm old. Like just the first time you go to run or do anything after something like that is so, you feel very weird about it. And obviously she's done a lot of return to AFL play work to get herself to the point of playing. You don't just jump into an AFL game, but she still, to actually jump into a game, because you can't replicate kind of a true match situation with the 360-degree nature of our game, because what happened with her knee was like a plant and turn, and then things just not going the right way, and her knee turned to mush, as her words put it. So for her to come back playing just so confidently, she's charging it, and she's charging out from forward to take marks. She's jumping into the contest. She's tackling. She's doing everything, and it's really quite remarkable. And it's also provided, as I think when we went into the season, I mentioned to Jane, if you go back and listen to our kind of preview or lead into the season episodes, as far as the AFLW is concerned, my one kind of area of concern when Teakle went down, Wendland went down, I was like a little bit of almost a vanilla nature to the forward line. I wasn't sure where the dynamism would come from with the likes of Gemma. Gemma likes to play kind of that higher up, link play, as she's done quite well now with Indy down there. You would have liked Teakle and Wendland. Teakle kind of being the focal point, Wendland playing in and around goal as well. They kind of provided a fair bit last year. I know Teakle did miss a bit of last year, but Wendland was there all year last year and really provided a little point of difference. And Indy's kind of gone forward and really provided kind of a hybrid. Like she can do that small forward thing, like the soccer and goals and all that stuff. But then she is kind of a Mitch Georgiades style forward that can play big, mark big, but she's more of that medium forward, medium tall kind of build as well. She's not like a true big hulking forward. She's just an athletic. As I think some people have mentioned, she's a bit of a swingman type, as we talk about in the AFL's men's, like your Chad Corns types. So Justin Westhoff had a bit of that in his career as well. Players that can play a bit of everywhere, and Indy's certainly been involved in the ruck as well. There was a few replies on Sunday morning when I put out the Taylor Swift inspired post, and friends of the pod, shout out to Andrea Ferguson, who kind of made a point, and a couple of, I think Patrick chimed in as well. Andrea kind of said, because I was just saying Indy's year's been great, and she was like, it's a disappointing seeing it being used in the ruck. But my thing with the ruck situation is, Indy, because she said she shouldn't be used as a second ruck, and I kind of just replied and said she's not being used as a second ruck. She's a chop out option. A true second ruck is someone that gets selected and they're taking a decent number of hit-outs, and they're expected to win a fair few, and be like your Sean Darcy and Luke Jackson is a true 1-2 ruck thing that's happening in the AFL men's. How we played last year at times with Olivia Levicki was a bit more closer to a second ruck situation. What we've got with how we're playing since we dropped Chloe Gaunt, and Patrick replied, I think, in that thread, and shout out to Patrick as well, a long-time friend of the pod. He replied and said, this is why we need Chloe Gaunt in the team. And I kind of replied and said, look, there's a reason, as much as I love Chloe Gaunt for the future and hopefully she develops great, but there's a reason that after 4 or 5 weeks in the side, I can't remember how many weeks it was, that Chloe Gaunt did find herself out of the side. It's particularly in AFLW when we've got 2 less players on the field as well. It really, really fucks with your team balance. If you've got a young player like Chloe Gaunt, who I think one of her last games, she only got 1 hit out. She a couple of disposals, a mark, and other than that, it was kind of a lot of, because of the way we're playing. It's not a slight on Chloe Gaunt, though. She'll improve. Her athletic ability will improve. She'll grow into it. She's 18, 19 years old. She's a young player, still developing her craft. But what happens in a side, particularly a side that plays like us, that doesn't have forward 50 entries, a little bit interesting at times. So you can't really get her as a focal point forward when she's still learning her craft. She's still very, very raw in the ruck game. And around the ground, she was just a bit too slow in being able to affect the in-between the arc stuff. So she was kind of just lost out there. And you needed a little bit more pace in the side, a little bit more dynamism. And the fact is, Matilda Scholes is such a unicorn that she can take you don't have, in general, AFLW games, you're just not having as many centre bounces or throw-ups now as well. It's a little bit more around the ground stuff. If Matilda can get the 20, 25, 30 ruck contest a game or 35, whatever it is, and get her 25 to 30 hit-outs, that's good. And then Indy can jump in there. And the reason Indy's being used in sparingly in the ruck is because she is an athletic. I said the way she bodies her defenders, that's why she has a good leap on her. I watched a couple of them on the replay. She did batter well with Edmonds. She kind of was getting out reap, but her leap was actually getting her to the point of contesting the ball at the height of its throw up. And she did get one out that kind of came to almost a clearance, but Maloney kind of, and shout out to Maloney for a great 50th game as well, by the way. She kind of epitomised kind of her style of play and had a really, really good game. But Maloney kind of misses the gather of the ball and ends up being a Bulldogs clearance, but the ball did come to Maloney first. So it's one of those things that, and we did win centre clearances 12-4 anyway. So, I think it was 12-4. It was a dominance from centre clearance for us, a dominance at hitouts. And Alice Edmonds is a ruck that matches Scholes for height, matches Scholes for similar. Alice Edmonds, I think, had by far the most hitouts in the league going into the game, probably still does. But Scholes did work her. There was a few moments at the ground, whether it was seen on telecast. I'm trying to think if I noticed when I watched replay. But I noticed at the game, like, Scholes and Edmonds would be in a little bit of a contest, and then the ball goes away. Scholes kind of jogs on after it. Edmonds is hands on knees, just looking absolutely knackered. Like, she was getting worked, and she was an All-Australian a couple of years ago. She's a Bulldogs Best and Fairest winner, I think. She's one of the more highly touted rucks in the league, and Scholes absolutely worked her all night. Edmonds still had a good game, but Scholes ultimately got the wood on her. I think it's 26-20 in hitouts. And overall, we won the stoppages. They got a bit of an advantage at. But again, those kind of things aren't endemic of our ruck situation. That's just more of our setup around stoppage and clearance. Like I said last week, we absolutely 36-12 or whatever the hit-out domination was against St Kilda, and they won the clearance numbers. So, there's certain amounts of what you're doing in the ruck situation and what you're doing around your clearance game is a little bit separate to that. So I think what we're doing in the ruck is the best thing we can do. Like when people say, I don't want to use Indy as a second ruck, or Amelie or whoever's taking a couple of chop outs, I sit there and go, okay, provide me the alternative. And that's what we don't. And Chloe Gaunt isn't the alternative right now with how we're playing. You can't play Chloe Gaunt in this side the way we're playing. We don't have enough of the ball to take advantage of having a Chloe Gaunt up there, and particularly when Indy Tahau is going forward and playing, as I said, that hybrid medium to tall forward role and kicking the goals that she is. She's kind of, she's become that spark plug up forward, and then Gemma can do her thing, like between the a little bit further up, facilitate goals, get forward and kick a goal herself. You have Ash Woodland, who's playing a bit more up on the ball, but she's getting forward and kicking a goal. And then you get, and then you have Lauren Young that's coming to the side now, and texted Jamie on the night and said, geez, Lauren Young looks like a player. You can just see the way she attacks the ball, the way she tackles, the way she reads the ball, the way she reads positioning and understands where she should be. She's going to be some player. And then she could have had 3 goals in the night too. Not the winning goal, but her first goal, which was, and by the way, scored at a very important time. We're 8 points up when she kicks that goal. So the game was still very much in the balance, and she kind of has a relatively simple opportunity for us nuffies on the outside, but still, I'm sure sitting up there waiting to kick your first goal from 30 odd out, more or less directly in front, there's still going to be the pressure meter, or the heart rate meter, is for the or the crowd noise meter. NCAA college football, EA Sports, it's in the game. That vibration of the controller kind of thing would have been hitting hard, I'm sure, at that moment. So a great first goal by her. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. I just round out the point on the forward line and kind of the dynamics with the ruck. I just think that, provide me an alternative option to what we're doing right now, and I'll happily see it. But if that alternative option right now, with the way we're playing, is Chloe Gauntlet, it just isn't for me in the way we're playing right now. The using Matilda as the sole ruck, particularly, again, as I said, AFLW, you have even less players on the field than you do in AFL men's, and we're only getting to the point now with AFL men's that people were like, oh, okay, with 5 on the bench and then obviously the more on the field, we could maybe start playing with 2 rucks, and then they're taking away the bounce. So that's changing people's thoughts again. But, we're AFL men's is like more players on the field and a bigger bench, and they're only just, and that at that point, it was just like, maybe we can do 2 rucks. When you're in AFLW and you're dealing with less on the field and, the lesser on the bench as well, it's just like, I think the way we're doing the ruck situation at the moment is the best we can do with what we've got. Yes, it would be lovely to have someone of a little bit like a second Matilda Scholes. Yeah, sure, great. Like would love that, but we don't. So we've got to make do with it. You kind of got to, and that's the thing is like, it's good to think about having a second ruck when ruck contests are happening, but then that second ruck has to be facilitate around the field as well, and that's obviously what Scholes does incredibly well as a player that can play as a midfielder essentially as well. But your second ruck, if they can't do that, then they've got to find other ways to. And we just didn't get that out of Chloe Gaunt in her early days. So we're using Indy Tahau, and she's competing well enough, and she's doing a good job. And that's kind of we've seen it in the men's game as well. That's what teams do to varying degrees of success. I do understand that, and yes, whether it's the ideal situation, like going forward long term, I don't know. But right now, it's what works, and worked okay on the day, I think. Lauren Young, incredible moment, that first goal. The mobbing of her by her teammates was wonderful. Really loved that, and it was really, really fun when realizing when her song was kicking in that it was the Angels. Am I ever going to see your face again? Crowd got involved in it, singing along. You could see Lauren Young on the screen, who was smiling away as she kind of realized that the whole crowd. I'm sure that moment for her must have been incredible. It just ticked off the vibes so well, and it was at a time when we were really playing well. For those that weren't at Alberton, there was almost 2,500. That was 2,444, I think, actually, that were down there. A really good crowd. And what was cool about the atmosphere, at least on our side, like because they've started the construction in earnest in moving the women's facilities over to the eastern side of the ground, like into the Alan Scott headquarters. So they're starting more construction around there. So they've actually closed off where the soccer fields are, and there was like a kids zone earlier in the year, and there was the temporary grandstands around that side as well. That side of the ground's completely closed off for spectators. So all of the amenities and whatnot have been placed on the western side of the ground. So where the club store is, the Foss Williams stands, all that stuff, or the Williams family stand, all that's everything. All the fans are predominantly around that area. There is a little section. I think the Bowls Club is open for people to hang out in as well. And then there was a cheer squad down behind the southern goals, and then the Alberton crowd squad were around on the northern goals. So there was like a cheer squad at both ends, and then the rest of the over 2,000 strong crowd were all in those stands, either in the 2 stands, the precinct, whatever it may be, and then in the concourse there as well. So it made the crowd feel really like it was quite lively. There was a lot of people there. It was, you had room to move, but it felt like a lot of people around you, and it was really cool. So, and as the second half got going, and as we got going, that noise, that sound of affirmation from the crowd was really, really potent. I felt it. I could feel kind of like the tingles. I could feel it in my plums. There you go, Jamie. Just that feeling as the game was, as we were building into the game, and as the girls, and you could, I think you could feel. I think the girls could get that energy too, and I think that's what's so important about our Alberton home ground advantage is that we do get a decent, strong crowd down there, and that noise of affirmation, particularly on a night game. The beers are flowing. I just had a shout out to whatever the coffee van was that I can't think of what the name of it was, but I'll grab it next time. But I had a delicious, I had an iced latte when I got in there because it was a bit warm, but then it's halftime. I went and got myself a flat white and just chuck an extra shot in there, mate. And geez, a delicious coffee. So I was driving because I've been on a 2 weeks of work straight run here at the moment. So I was just drinking coffee, but you could see a lot of people were enjoying the night, a lot of beers being consumed, and just the energy was good, and you could tell the kind of the team fed off of that. And then, just with the sing-along with the Am I Ever Gonna See Your Face Again, a goal song for Lauren Young, which I was just like, that's such a fucking good, just a good one for, just if you already, she's already kind of got such an expectation on her, and, I've been kind of reticent to trying to push that too much, but she has got, she was a highly touted recruit, and she's got that expectation on her, and people got to love her already before she even pulled on it, played a game for us, and then she's played okay, and then she kicks a goal, and she's got that kind of goal song. It's just like, you're gonna endear yourself even more to the Western Suburbs crowd that the Port Adelaide, the core of Port Adelaide, the Port Country stuff is like. There's certainly been plenty of angels pumped out in the Birkenhead Tavern and areas of the Port Country over the years. So Lauren Young certainly did herself no harm in endearing herself to the crowd even more in both the celebration, the song, and everything on the night, and certainly just the way she goes about her footy, which is the most important thing. Not goal songs, but the way she goes about her footy, whether it be a tackling pressure, her football nous is very, very good. So she's going to be one for the future, absolutely. She's one for the now, but she's one for the future for sure. And then, Kirsty Lamb's goal song, obviously, Horses by Daryl Braithwaite. It divides opinion, I think, but it kind of hit perfect. Like she, finishes off the scoring on the night. By the way, again, another moment of just the extra 1-2% of pressure thing. Justine Mules-Robinson, smothering the kick from what should be just a, relatively academic kick out of defensive 50 for the Western Bulldogs player, whoever it was. But Justine Mules-Robinson standing the mark as soon as she gets the signal that it's play on, just starts going towards the ball, gets the smother in, comes out to Kirsty Lamb, who finishes with aplomb, finishes off the scoring for us. Daryl Braithwaite's Horses is bringing around Alberton, and Bob's your uncle. We are going home with the points. Which was incredible. Just incredible vibes. Loved it. Wish I didn't have to get out of there so quickly afterwards. I would love to hang around and just catch a bit of the girls kind of getting the attention from the fans, and very, very deserved plaudits that they would have been getting. But I had to get home for to continue with my working weekend the next day. But it was incredible stuff. We'll take a quick break here, and I'll get back with some of the stats from the night. All right, let's just jump through a few of the stats here quickly before we get to our votes, and probably talk a little bit more about a few individual performances that we've been, or I've already touched on a few already, obviously, but when we get to the votes, we'll hear a bit more about them. As I said earlier, disposal number, just copy and paste it every week. We're going to lose that, unless we're coming up against a team that we happen to be, statistically better in it, but most teams are better than us. We actually let them have more of the ball kind of than the seasonal average. We averaged 217 for the year. We had 201 in this game. They averaged 244. They have 252. So, they have 51 more disposals than us, 20% more of the ball, so to speak. But we didn't make that difference count too much. It was a hell of a lot of handball because we actually have more kicks in the game, which I think probably is indicative of where our advantage comes from, is that we just do try to take the game on more down the field. Obviously, it does lead to a lot of, as we've talked about, some chagrin with some dump kicking stuff. But it ultimately, if we do, as I said, up that pressure in the second half and get that kind of advantage going in that way, get the game being played in our terms, then that's where those kicks can take advantage. And they're kind of, there was 45 handballs on our end to their 107. So we have 16 less handballs than our average. They have 8 more, and it doesn't really make it count. Because, as I said, if we get the pressure up, they're going to be trying to handball out of pressure and turn it over a little bit, and that's where we're going to get a little bit of advantage. So for the day, we have 32 inside 50s to 28. So again, the average for the year. We were averaging a couple more, we have 4 more, so we get a little bit of help there. Particularly in disposal efficiency, they average 4% more in the year, but we brought it back to a 2% difference on the day. We average more to the point too is on the year we only average 55% disposal efficiency. We got to 61.7 on the night. So really, if we're using the ball at 60% or better for how we are playing at the moment, that is very, very good. And I think a lot of that came in the second half. When we took the game on a little bit more, the Bulldogs did tire in the game too. I meant to mention that earlier, but you could tell the Bulldogs tired as the game went on. As I said, Alice Edmonds, I saw her hands and knees at some point, and you could just tell the pressure told for them, or for us, advantage for us, but for them, that you could just tell they ran out of a little bit of, I wouldn't say they ran out of puff. They just did, it was kind of a relentless pressure from us in the second half, and they just couldn't kind of go with it. And that probably helped our disposal efficiency. We took the game on, and then we just started getting a few more. You make your own luck in football a lot, and if you take the game on in earnest, and you've got some, we're still not a great ball handling side, but we're getting better. And we took the game on, and efficiency inside 50, just a shade under 60% for us. They were at 53.6. So, again, win that one. I did mention earlier we won hit-outs 27-22 overall. I think 26 of those were from Matilda Shoals. Clearances, we win 28-24. We win centre 12-4 and lose stoppage 16-20. So, which that was more or less the season average on the stop. So the stoppage more or less was at season average for both teams, but centre clearances was a massive change to the season average. And we average 8.6 for the year. We have 12. They average 5.3. They have 4 on the night. So there was a distinct point of difference. Contested possession, we actually lost by 14. They did actually turn that one around on us, but ultimately didn't tell the advantage too much, which is good. We have 69 tackles to 50, that's where, in some of those games this year that we've been losing the disposal count and then losing the tackle count as well has been quite telling in the way the results go on. But that second half pressure really turned it up. And ultimately that's a big part of the reason we got the win, particularly for teams, two teams that had their seasonal average was only 2 tackle different, but we have a plus 19 on the night. That's a real point of difference to point to for where we could get the win from. 34 1%ers to 24 as well. So, all those little spoils and all those little things did a lot of work there as well. Turnover differential was 63 to 58, so a 5 turnover differential. Not too much different to the seasonal average, but again, it is two better than the seasonal average between the two teams. So again, it's just those mitigating those little differences, just making sure that those gaps that you have on the season don't get bigger. Maybe you can contract them a little bit, and we did that in a lot of these areas on the night. And ultimately, just pressure and an earnest, positive football attitude in the second half is going to go a long way to getting you a result. And it did on the day. It was just really impressive stuff. I was, as I said, pretty down at the end of the first half because it just felt like a lot of things that we're doing wrong throughout the year we were doing wrong again in this instance in the first half. And to turn it around the way we did in the second half, whatever Michael Jordan's secret stuff or whatever Arnell did and said at halftime, it got the job done, and really proud of him for doing that. It would have been a rough way to kind of. It's a real tough run of games coming up, and my expectation is that we're finishing outside of finals this year, but we haven't lost too many by a lot. The Kangaroos game aside, we should have won a couple more of those, but that's a learning experience to come from. But we haven't been beaten badly, and you can look at a lot of those games and go, there's ways we should have won those games, and that's a good play. That's a frustrating place to be because you'd like to be winning them, but it is also something to look back on as I look towards going to next year. Is that there's a lot of things that you can build on out of those results and learn from, and then certainly just for the girls need to keep getting that winning feeling, have a little bit of a carrot for the next couple of weeks at least, although some tough matchups coming up, but a little bit of a carrot to dangle out in front of them that the season is still alive, and this was a promising kind of result because the Bulldogs are right there with us as far as their seasonal aspirations. They still had the chance that we were on on the same amount of points going into this game, and very, very close in percentage. So we get the win and keep our season flickering a little bit. So, yeah, all we can ask for, and a very, 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 very fun evening overall as well, which is what we, as fans, we want to go down and watch a side play football that makes us proud, and they certainly did that on the night. I was quite proud of them when I was driving home and in a good mood, until Liverpool played a few hours later. But I'm not going to talk about that. I'll take a quick pause here again, and we'll get to the votes. Now it's time for the CREEDCAST Player of the Year voting. Alrighty, Player of the Year votes. So now we're going to hear from Jamie. So I've got it in my little Sting deck here. I put his little audio note in there. I think it's 5 or 6 minutes, I think. So you'll hear from him. I haven't heard his votes yet, so we're basically going to hear his votes first, and then I'll go through mine. So it's going to be interesting to see if there's any points of difference in them. I think he's going to have a few of his thoughts and then his votes here as well. So we'll hear from Jamie for the next few minutes. Hello, Jamie.
G'day, Creed fam. Jamie here, checking in once again, live from my rumpus room, 1 week on from my special announcement last week. And I'm happy to report that all are doing well in the family, and I'm bloody enjoying the time off work, let me tell you. How good was Our Lady pair getting up on Saturday night? So good, so I felt compelled to just insert myself here while on podcast paternity leave and supply you with my votes. Just quickly on the performance, like I said last week, after the aftermath of the last quarter St Kilda debacle, young side, we needed to back them to the hill, and I was happy to see that a pretty strong crowd ended up at Alberton. I thought we started pretty well. We started with some intensity, but then I thought we fell into a bit of a lull, or we got spooked a little bit, in my opinion, with Western Bulldogs pressure lifting in the second quarter particularly, but we found our mojo near the end of that and into the third and fourth quarters, fourth quarter in particular, which made it all the better to pile on 6 goals, which I'm sure Dave has already broken down fantastically well, as he does, and as he particularly did last week. That was a good episode, if I do say so myself on this recording. So right into my votes, just going to give an honourable mention to Sinead Goody, probably the unluckiest person out of anyone in the team to miss out on votes. We all know how good she is across the board, 13 disposals, 9 tackles, great effort, 290 metres gain type stuff. Did think she got a bit selfish in the second quarter, which is a bit of a symptom of some of our better players sometimes, particularly Schultz, Goody. I say selfish. I just think it's more so they're so talented that they try and put the team on their back, when in reality they just need to bring more players into the game more often and help spread the load. But my one vote goes to Ella Heads. Dave and I have been really impressed with her integration into our side since coming in. She had the 14 disposals, 5 of which were contested, 7 of which were intercepts, 359 metres gained, 78% disposal efficiency, which is awesome, 6 marks, 2 contested, and 3 rebound 50s. Again, just really happy with how she slotted in. She kind of marshalled the half back line on the night and provided some good run, found some good options in transition too. So probably a bit unlucky to be the one vote, if I'm being honest. That leads me to my 2 votes, which is Ash Woodland, just a beast. I might be a bit biased with here. It probably should be the other way around, but she's just really getting it done in a new position that she's still getting used to by and large. Also had the 14 disposals, 7 of which were contested. She had the 182 metres gain, 3 marks. She got the 1 goal on the board, just keeping her goal tally rolling, being one of the top 10 AFLW goal kickers historically. 3 scoring involvements in total, and the 7 tackles are what did it for me. Just some real grunt work in the middle and a real presence, which, yeah, I'm over the moon about. I think she's a weapon. 3 votes. Indy Tahau. I sent Dave countless messages on Saturday night just thanking whatever deity or spirit or whatever you believe in, or don't believe in, thanking the universe that we have Indy Tahau on our side, because, yeah, she's just developed into such a real presence in the AFLW competition. She'd probably be a look-in for the AFLW All-Australian side just at this point in time. 9 disposals. She went at 77% disposal efficiency and 202 metres gain. She had 2 marks, 6 score involvements in total, with her 4 goals included in that. So the forwards, we like to give them a bit more credit. I know she got the 8 coaches' votes, but probably a bit unlucky to be in my 3. The other person who got the 8 coaches' votes was Matilda Schultz. She gets my 4 votes tonight. 18 disposals, 7 of which were contested, 5 of which were intercepts, 414 metres gained, 5 marks, which is great. Dave and I really, really wanted her to start taking some marks last year, and it's a fairly consistent statistic in her regard this year. She's coming into her own for that, which is a great bonus, particularly in transition and rebounding 50. 4 clearances, 8 inside 50s, 4 score involvements. So just Matilda Schultz at her usual best, which is fantastic. Again, one of my favourite players, of course, and I'm sure I'm not on an island there at all. My 5 votes, obviously the Tahau Schultz 8 coaches' votes surprised me, or didn't surprise me in that regard, but it surprised me that our copy and paste, CREEDCAST copy and paste 5 votes, Abby Dowrick, probably didn't feature, because I thought as the game wore on and as the bodies tired, she came into her own and she really knuckled down. Abby Dowrick had 21 disposals, 11 of which were contested, 547 metres gained, 3 marks, 10 clearances, 6 inside 50s, and 7 score involvements to get that out. She just seemed to be everywhere when we needed her. There's one disposal that sticks out in my mind. It was she got it on the outer wing, kicked it inside to the corridor to Molly Brooksby, just weighted it perfectly, and then obviously Molly Brooksby, being a fantastic kick that she is, spotted up Indy Tahau actually with a fantastic lead. That started from Dowrick, just biting off that one from the wing into the centre. And although her overall disposal efficiency wasn't that great, those are the types of moments that, we want an Abby Dowrick providing. So overall, really happy, really looking forward to the next challenge, which Dave will shortly touch on. But yeah, just over the moon that we responded, and we actually won a 4th quarter pretty bloody well, which just goes to show that where against St Kilda we looked flat, we looked inept, we looked unfit. Perhaps there is more to it, and we just need to stay focused. Just as an aside, I think the late inclusion of Kirsty Lamb might have helped with that just ever so slightly. Although we don't want to see Piper Window out, but I could go on forever. I'm super tempted to jump back on as to how good we're doing in the home here. But yeah, going to enjoy my time off and let Dave do his thing. So really appreciate the support as always. I know I said that last week, and I know Dave's going to talk a bit more. But yeah, we can't speak enough of the gratitude that we have to do this and be a voice for the fans and for our AFL men's and women's sides. So back to you, Dave. Take it away, Earl. And thanks, guys. I'll catch you soon.
Yes, cheers, Jamie, for sending that through. I think after the result, I think that the temptation to just jump back properly onto the podcast for an episode this week was there, but I'm glad he's continuing to take the time on podcast paternity leave and to enjoy time with the family. I know he's talked about a Lord of the Rings marathon possibly in motion at this very moment as I'm recording. So, you kind of got to... You don't get too many moments like this in your life, particularly with, the arrival of a new child. So to kind of take advantage and just be a family together, particularly in this modern world that we live in. So I'm very, very glad he's taken that time and utilising that time to the fullest. Thank you for getting the votes in there, Jamie, as well. And very, very well articulated. And it is the same players, though not the same order. So I don't need to go through too many more stats. So we'll get to one. There's one little nugget I got into in the match feed, the live feed of the game about Abby Dowrick's kind of a moment in the game that kind of Jamie was talking about there in his votes. So I'll just run through mine quickly. I had Ella Heads at 1-2 and I had similar sentiments to Jamie. Maybe a bit unlucky to be there at one spot because she's just Ella everywhere. Really loving her role in the team this year, and I'm loving her and the fact that we got her over in the off season. Love Ella Heads and what she's doing for this side. Had Ash Woodland in the 2 spot as well. Again, similar sentiments to Jamie. She's developed into a new role this year, and still getting forward and getting goals, and her pressure and tackling and all that stuff on the night was really, really good to see. Loving Woodland's game. I had Scholes in the 3 spots. It's just more just very, very hard to split my top 3, really. Scholes battling against one of the better rucks in the competition. I think she did a really, really good job taking those marks through the ground that Jamie said kind of provided. There was a few sequences of good play where we actually got the ball moving through the middle. I think particularly even for I think maybe the first goal. I might be thinking of a different goal, but either way, she involved in some link-up play, involved in that, and then obviously her ruck craft is second to none, really. So really, really love that stuff from Matilda. I had Derek in my 4th spot, so obviously I had Indy best. I can definitely have Derek as best as well. It was very, very hard. I was just like, Indy, 4 goals, doing what she did, the way she was scoring them, the points of difference in what she was doing, and then around the ground as well. I just think that was a match-defining, match-winning game that Indy played, and when you're kicking 4 goals in the AFLW, coming off the knee, I was just like, no, I got to give Indy your best on for this one. Might have been a little bit of tugging at the heartstring stuff with just reading about her injury and stuff I just did a lot of there was this week that I went back and refreshed myself on the injuries. So just a lot of stuff when I was doing my graphic stuff for her the socials post on the weekend as well. So Indy was my best on, but going back to Derek, who's my as Jamie said, very, very stiff to probably not get more coaches' votes, but she had an incredible impact. But the little nugget from the match feed was, and I'll read it verbatim here, a 6-goal streak in the second half helped the Power over the line tonight as they recorded a pressure rating of 220 with 24-16 tackles. Abby Darrick was instrumental during this period, collecting a game-high 13 disposals, the next best on. So this is for this period of play, obviously not the whole game, but basically over half of her disposals of the game came in this 6-goal streak that we had. She collects a game-high 13 disposals, the next best on field was 8, in addition to 290 metres gained, 5 contested possessions, 4 clearances, and 4 score involvements. So in that 6-goal streak, she's involved in 4 of the scores. She gets 290 metres gained. She gets the 13 disposals, 4 clearances, 5 contested. Like just Abby, I said Ella everywhere with Ella Heads. It was Abby everywhere in that moment. So she had a game. She was very, very much had a game-defining, game-winning period of play where she went absolute ham. So Abby Darrick. So this was a bit more back to when I read that, and just from my view on the field, view at the game as well, I was like, she was involved in everything in that. I was really, really impressed with it. I was the most impressed with an Abby Darrick period of time play that I've had this year on when I was there, and then reading that back when I got back and watching the replay, I was like, that kind of legitimized how I was feeling watching it live at the ground, that she was just having that kind of game in that moment and was really, really instrumental to getting us the result. And that's kind of the Abby Darrick that's the next level we want to see going for. And I love that she did have a shot at goal from fucking 45 out or something like that. And I was really, really maybe it was, I think the woman on the mark was maybe a 40. I don't know. It was down the northern end that she had a shot on goal. I think it faded left, and I can't remember if it got knocked over the line for a minor score but she almost made the distance. And I was like, when she took the mark and was going back, I just went, no, just go back and have a pop. She's got a good leg. I was thinking it might be just outside of her range, but I think, maybe a slight mechanics shift and stuff like that. Maybe she gets it next time. Like, I don't know, but she got close, and I'm glad that she had the pop at that one. Obviously didn't get the goal, but that's probably the one thing. Like, if she can add that, like, she's had some goal scoring moments when she's been actually thrown forward or whatever. But this was her best game for the year for me, which is kind of why I feel bad maybe that she's not best on. But I was like, Indy kicked 4, and I gave her best on. What are you gonna do? Sue me? It's good to have games where you're struggling to figure out the votes because it was a team effort. Shout out to likes of Caitlin Pope, Tegan Jermack. I think was really good. I think Jermack actually got a coach's vote as well. I thought Tegan Jermack was really good. A lot of players contributing. Obviously, I said Justin MULES-ROBINSON had a good captain's game. She had the 9 disposals, got in there, she got involved in the game a bit. Gemma Houghton had 10 disposals, kicks a goal. Could have had 3 herself, but she was more involved than she has been in previous weeks. So you got to get these ones involved. Maria Maloney in her 50th. Really, really good stuff as well. Lily Patterson, I think, continues to show some stuff. Jasmine Soden, laid out a Bulldogs player on the wing. I think gave away a free, but I was like, fuck yeah, let's go. Just a lot of contributors. Just a lot of contributors. Jamie did mention Shanae Goody being an honorable mention. I thought she had a good game. Yeah, a couple of times getting caught holding the ball when she just shouldn't. Really soured it for me a little bit, and then she's disposal efficiency was a bit down. She just had one of those games where she's a young player, very, very young still, developing. She tried to bite off a bit more than she could chew in a period in the game where we weren't probably playing as good anyway, and she just got caught. But that'll develop, and she's still getting her hands on the ball. Just all those intricate patterns of play and moments to take you. I like that she takes the game on that way. She's gonna, and once she gets a few more years under her belt, being how young she is, she's gonna be fucking a star. So, not too much worried about it. But yeah, it's kind of like some of those moments where he took her out of any contention for me. But there's a lot of players that could have been honorable mention the whole fucking team. Let's do that. Let's just do that. We'll go with that. Thanks Jamie for getting your votes in. A really, really good game to review. Really fun one to review. One more shout out. Shout out to Simon, Patreon member, who came around. He was over. So a happy 30th birthday weekend to Simon. He was over hanging out at the game with some friends. I actually passed on a couple of my tickets to him to get a couple of his mates into the game because I was only going to be using one. So have him. And he popped around quickly at quarter time to say good day. So got to meet Simon finally and say good day. So shout out to you, Simon. Sorry I couldn't hang around much at the game afterwards. I was, as I mentioned earlier, I've been working 2 weeks straight. By the time it gets to next week when I take a week off for a little minor hernia surgery I got coming up, but I'm just doing a lot of work prior to that. I was ticking off pretty quickly after the game, but thank you for coming around and saying good day. I'm glad we got to say good day in person, and glad that the girls eventually, because that was a quarter time and we were kind of, he was, said happy birthday, and it was, at that point, it wasn't going too well. So I'm glad that they actually got the job done in the end, and actually provided a really, really entertaining game for a little birthday trip for Simon. So shout out to you, shout out to for you and your and many happy wishes going forward, and hopefully many, many more Port wins, both in the AFL men's and AFL women's in the immediate future for you. I'll take a quick pause here before I finish off the rest of the pod with what's coming up this week. All right, Port ladies head up to Ipswich in Queensland this Saturday, the 11th of October, 4:35 p.m. Alberton Standard Time to take on the Brisbane Lions. Brisbane Lions sitting in 5th on the ladder, percentage of 153. They've had a decent, they've been a premiership contender the last couple of years, obviously winning it a couple of years ago, and then playing off for it last year against North Melbourne, who have been beating everyone. So no slouches there. They've lost a couple of games this year to Hawthorn, to Carlton, and obviously to North as well. So 3 sides that are competing fairly well in the footy this year. Carlton sitting top 4, Hawthorn sitting top 4, Kangaroos obviously sitting top. So their only losses are coming against teams that are right up there. The Kangaroos one probably being the only extensive loss. Well, it was a 29-point loss. They lost to Carlton by 14, and they lost the opener to Hawthorn by 4 points. The rest of the way of the season, they had a close win against the Crows. Well done for that. They beat Freo by 70 points this year. Beaten Richmond by 34. Well, shout out to Richmond, by the way, who got their first win of the season this last weekend. If you don't know who it was, they beat the Crows. Thank you, Richmond. So one of the all-time AFLW upsets. Thank you, Richmond, for getting the job done against the Crows this weekend. Brisbane just last weekend beat the Gold Coast Suns by 68 points. So, we've got that in common. This is going to be a tough one for our girls. It's up in, obviously, an away game. It is going to be 37 degrees in Ipswich, a 50% chance of rain. So add just a 50% chance of a mil or two of rain, 37-degree weather. Swamp. I'm immediately just feeling that I would have swamp ass, but I'm just, as far as TMI for the pod. Sorry. Just immediately, that's just horrible conditions. So that'll be a factor, obviously. Brisbane just being one of the better sides in the competition, going away against them, it is going to be a tough ask. Certainly, I think the team sitting in second on the ladder in Melbourne is a team that we've beaten this year. And a lot of the teams we've lost to, West Coast, St Kilda, that are sitting above us. Geelong, St Kilda are sitting in the 8. West Coast is sitting comfortably in the 8. St Kilda and West Coast are sitting right there with Brisbane on the same amount of points. Melbourne a couple of games clear of them, who we've beaten. Geelong just a game back as well, who we lost to in close ones. And they're all teams we've lost to in close ones. Again, this season we could just be, a goal or two more a game and we're fucking sitting comfortably in the top 8. It is frustrating, but it is also something to look to and say, I think we can go and compete with this Brisbane side. If we can win it, that might be a bridge too far, but I do believe we can go out there and compete with them. I wouldn't be putting money on it. And that's not me trying to be negative. I'm just being objectively, realistic that this is going to be a tough ask. And the conditions are going to be quite tough as well. Whether Brisbane are more used to them, being that they train and play up there a bit more often, I don't know. But this is also probably coming into a point of I don't know how many, without going back and looking at weather records from previous weeks, I don't know if Brisbane have played much in these conditions yet this year either. So that'll be an interesting factor in it. That's going to be an absolute factor in it as well. Stamina, and obviously for a team like us who up until last week was having some questions about fourth quarters, that will be interesting. But look, we've got a week's rest between the games. The only injury concern that we have, Piper Window is going to be tested. She was obviously a late out last week. Kirsty Lamb coming in, not a bad one to bring in. As Jamie just mentioned his notes, that was actually a very good point by him. She probably added a little bit of maturity and poised the side down the stretch last weekend as well. So, look, if we go in unchanged from the late change, does that make sense? Yeah, because we were unchanged going into last week, but then Piper Window was laid out. So if we're unchanged from the side that actually took the field on Saturday night at Alberton, I won't be too worried. I'd love Piper Window back in. I like Piper Window's absolutely both for the now and for the future as far as what she can do. But we're certainly going to be just as competitive, I believe, with a side with Kirsty Lamb in it as well, obviously with her pedigree. And we're fairly fit otherwise. There's no other injury concerns. I think Kobe Morgan might have been going into concussion protocol or something like that, but she's not part of it. There's not someone coming in out of the game day squad anyway. So apart from obviously your Janelle Cuthbertsons, your Julia Teakles, your Caitlin Wendlands that have been long-term injuries right now. Piper Window's the only immediate concern as to how fit she's going to be, but she's a test. So I think it's just let's assess it this week and see where she's at. Not worth taking any risks. So love to see her back in if she's available, but if she's not, I think we'll be just fine with the squad that took the field against the Dogs. It's going to be all about our application on the day. Hopefully learning some positive lessons from what we did against the Bulldogs in that second half, and how to run out games and how to attack the games and make the games played on our terms. That's what we've got to get better at, is just making the game ours. Like that's what the good teams do, and we're kind of trying to learn to play that way, and we found a little bit of that in the second half against the Bulldogs. And if we can bring a little bit of it to Brisbane and not make life easy for them, who knows what we can do. We've gone away and won a pretty impressive game last year in that Hawthorn final last year. So, if we can go away and attack the game on it and make it ours at times, you never know what can happen. These conditions might be just as atrocious for that word. It might just as much attrition for Brisbane in these conditions, these horrible looking conditions as well. So, like I said, 37 degrees is going to be a little bit rough. But we'll see. We'll see what comes of it. I will do the squad show on Thursday and talk a little bit more at length about what to expect with Brisbane. But for now, that's the news at hand as far as what's going to occur later in the week. A little bit of a preliminary weather report and what our squad's kind of looking like going into it as well. So. A massive test awaits. But this side certainly has proven this weekend that they're still up for the battle, up for the challenge. They were challenged that first half, and I was worried that maybe we're going to just kind of whimper away into the night of this season. But that second half response really buoyed me that these girls are absolutely still building towards something over the next few years, and certainly trying to make the best of this year and what's left of it as well. So. It is also Pride Rad coming up. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the Pride Guernsey from last year behind me hanging up there. Pride Rad's very, very important. If you don't think it is, educate yourself a little bit more as to why. There's a lot of great resources out there, and it's not hard to find out why. I'm certainly, if you want to DM me to ask my opinions on it, you can, but I certainly encourage you to go out and read, people that exist in the space, writers that understand the nuances of why Pride Round and recognition of the LGBTQ plus community is so important, whether it be the right for people to love who they want to love or to be who they want to be. It's all very, very important to continue to highlight the positivity around the Pride community and protect them from some of the more heinous hate that has been projected on them and much, much more over the past few years as certain culture warriors on the right demonize communities simply for just existing. So, Pride Round's very, very important. I'm looking forward to Port Adelaide kind of teased on their Instagram and socials today that they're going to be dropping their Pride Guernsey very, very soon. So I'm very, very. This one from last year is just one of the most striking ones I've seen. But they've done some great jobs over the last few years with their Pride Guernsey. So I'm very, very excited to see what they do this year. Very, very excited for that drop. So, Pride Round coming up. Very, very good stuff to celebrate. And ultimately, another round of Port Adelaide football coming up as well. So, get around the squad show on the Thursday evening, or it'll drop on Friday for you. That's about it. Nothing more to say. We'll hear from Jamie one more time and see you out this episode.
Con la pera.
A little bit of Latin flair from Jamie. Good night, everyone. I'll talk to you later on this week.